You think you know the Romans? Think again. The same people we look at as the founders of democracy were freely using drugs across all walks of life, from the emperor to the common soldier. Living conditions throughout the empire were harsh, what with all the wars, famines, plagues, and natural disasters. So, the people needed a way to forget their troubles. For their out-of-body experiences, the Romans turned to the same plants they used for healing. Their knowledge of these substances was vast and practical, and anything mind-altering or pleasure-inducing was as popular then as it is today. Alcohol, cannabis, opiates, and psychoactive drugs, including those made from mushrooms, were the drugs of choice, and everybody used them to get high, free from the stigma that exists today in many countries. This wasn't a hidden subculture, it was mainstream. Drugs were just part of the Roman way of life. Welcome to the Roman Empire, loaded. The Romans not only grew drugs, but they also sold them and took them. As well as being used to treat illnesses as wide-ranging as earache and insomnia, cannabis and opioids were universally accepted for recreational use. These leisure drugs weren't kept secret or sold under the counter. Because demand was so high, there were dealers all over the empire. They bought and sold drugs in many forms, such as oils and powders, selling them in the markets alongside other more mundane spices. In Rome, there were entire shopping districts specializing in this trade, the most famous being Psychoactive in Capua. Its name became so synonymous with this lifestyle that Cicero would mock officials by saying their behavior was worthy of Psychoactive. Drug dealers often gave advice on how to prepare the drug and how much to use for the best high. This open market demonstrates a society far more comfortable with drug use than our own. Poppies were grown in gardens beside other innocuous plants, such as lavender and lettuce. The first-century poet Virgil even shared advice on how to cultivate poppies alongside ordinary crops, a testament to how deeply these plants were integrated into daily life. Although the concept of alcoholism didn't exist until the 20th century, heavy drinking was common across the empire, where wine was a big thing. It played a large part in religious and funeral practices, and there were several public festivals celebrating wine production. Some Roman connoisseurs could even identify the year and location where a particular wine was made. Used across the classes, it was thought to increase strength and sexual potency as long as it was drunk in moderation, whereas excessive drinking would have the opposite effect. Like other Roman writers, the philosopher Pliny the Elder thought that drinking was damaging to society. He described cases of alcoholism in his treatise Natural History, stating that a great part of mankind are of the opinion that there is nothing else in life worth living for. He described how drunken people have a pallid hue, drooping eyelids, tremulous hands, and dreams of monstrous lustfulness. He believed that women who drank were likely to be promiscuous, and that drinking could drive people to 1,000 crimes or even death. The Stoic philosopher Seneca agreed, believing that excessive consumption of alcohol caused long-term damage. He was well aware of functioning alcoholics who could appear sober even though they had consumed huge quantities of alcohol. The politician and General Mark Antony was said to be a heavy drinker, a fact that his political rivals often used against him. The most famous doctor in the Roman Empire, Galen, described how the young slave of a teacher consumed large amounts of alcohol, which resulted in a fever, an inability to sleep, and delirium. Eventually, the slave died. Galen also believed that alcohol should be kept away from children, showing an early understanding of its developmental dangers. Roman physicians were well aware of the poisoning effects of opium. The 2nd century BC doctor Nicander of Colophon described what happened to someone who had drunk too much. Their eyes do not open, an odorous sweat bathes all the body, cheeks turn pale, the labored breath passes faint and chill. The physician Dioscorides, nicknamed the father of pharmacognosy, was more direct. It kills. Although there was a way back from the coma, Nicander recommended forthwith rouse him with slaps on either cheek, or by shouting, or again by shaking him. This shows they understood not just the dangers, but also rudimentary methods of counteracting an overdose. Pliny the Elder mentioned several illnesses that opium was used to treat, including carbuncles, epilepsy, liver complaints, and even scorpion bites. Opium was used commonly for insomnia. Galen discusses the drug use of the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. He followed the path of Stoicism, one of whose virtues was temperance. According to Galen, the emperor applied this self-restraint in all things, including his drug-taking. He mixed the opium with spoonfuls of honey, and the dosage was adjusted every day by the imperial physician to make sure that the emperor could get the sleep he needed without compromising his judgment during the day. When Aurelius tried to reduce his dose, he experienced what we would now call withdrawal, becoming unable to work. Aurelius became quite the opiate connoisseur and was able to tell the difference between good and bad ingredients. This intimate relationship between the most powerful man in the world and his daily medicine reveals the drug's dual nature as both a cure and a crutch. Some Romans purchased opium especially to take their own life. This was not illegal. Many people who were either old or in pain chose to slip away from this life on a gentle wave of opium. Opiates dissolved in drink were also an easy, deniable way to get rid of an enemy. It's thought that Nero poisoned his 13-year-old stepbrother Britannicus with opiates at a dinner party in 55 AD. The drug was placed in the young boy's drink. Once Britannicus drank the substance, according to Tacitus, he lost alike both voice and breath and died, leaving the throne free for Nero to take. A few plants known to the Romans like mandrake, belladonna, and wormwood produced feelings of euphoria, hallucinations, and delirium. Wormwood contains a chemical called thujon, which produces mind-altering effects, making humans feel self-confident. It's also a potent neurotoxin, and too much of the wormwood wine could be extremely dangerous, a fact that seems to have eluded the Romans completely. Sometimes many different drugs were mixed to form a cocktail. Wine jars found in an ancient pharmacy near Pompeii showed traces of a concoction containing cannabis, opium, and henbane, a potent mix for any occasion. Archaeologists have also found specially prepared psychedelic kits. For example, a hollowed-out animal bone was discovered containing seeds of henbane, a plant that caused hallucinations of flying. These weren't just random plants, they were tools for altering perception. The use of hemp in human history goes back even further than opium. The mysterious Yamnaya people brought the plant into Eastern Europe from Asia. Hemp is a versatile material and has many practical uses, like for clothing and rope. But its flowers and resin can also produce high quantities of psychoactive drugs. It's possible that marijuana was imported by Roman merchants from the Scythians. The Greek historian Herodotus recorded how they take seeds from the hemp and throw them on red-hot stones. The Scythians howl with joy at their vapor bath. The Romans often used the same process, known as fumigation, to breathe in the fumes. Dioscorides, a physician who traveled with Nero's army, commented on how its excessive use would cause problems with the user's sex life. But he also noted it was perfect for anyone needing to control their impulses. Pliny the Elder called hemp the laughing weed, and added that it is intoxicating when added to wine. And Galen described how cannabis was used at parties to bring joy and laughter. From the emperor managing his pain to the soldier seeking escape, from a poisoner's tool to a philosopher's muse, these substances weren't just a part of Roman life, they were its fuel. They fueled creativity, eased suffering, determined fates, and built empires. Roman society, one of the first to face addiction as a social phenomenon, didn't separate these substances from their daily lives. They made them a part of their medicine, their religion, and their power. Their world was built on a chemistry we now forbid. But the truth is, human history has never been sober.